All right, welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. This is Yankees Unloaded, and the Yankees just won 4-3 against the Toronto Blue Jays in 10 innings. This is a game that took way longer than it had to be, and I'm just going to say that right now, Gary, because I saw that person send out that tweet. They were at the stadium, and they're like, "Yeah, it stopped raining 40 minutes ago." I was like, "Well, then why the hell is the tarp still on the field?" Like.
I think they were afraid to actually start the game, and I get this. Like
Yeah,
they were
no,
afraid to
I
start the
understand.
game and then have to stop it and then start again because that really does affect teams. And obviously, when you're talking about baseball teams and their bullpens, not every bullpen's got 5 or 6 guys they can go to that they rely on. Really, the Yankees right now, it's like Leiter, Weaver, Holmes. Not really. Like they're, you know what I mean. So if we had burnt an arm like Leiter and then went into another delay, I mean, potentially it would ruin the game. So I got that. More curious as to why the $7.1 billion organization doesn't have a retractable roof or something. I mean, the freaking Coliseum had a freaking roof and we don't have a roof. So I get it. Some people think Yankee Stadium shouldn't have a roof. People feel like baseball was always intended to be played outdoors. Totally understand. But we kind of agree with that. But what if the weather doesn't permit that? I think it's kind of ridiculous that people travel to Yankee Stadium. They'll fly in to go see the Yankees play, and they can just like you and
I didn't fly
rain
in,
out.
but yeah.
It's insane. Yeah, you drive 3 hours, right? And all to find out that the team that people always travel to see play, yeah, they don't have a roof. So go book another hotel.
Yeah, like my dad said today. We were just talking about this actually. Actually, because I brought up your tweet to my dad, and he's just like, "Yeah, because it's so easy to just take off from work because I have a rain check." That's what the argument.
They tell you we'll reschedule. Not a problem at all.
Yeah.
We'll reschedule. It's like, well, it's like being on an airline. You're trying to go to a wedding and they say, well, hold on a second. I know you're bummed to be sitting here at LAX for 12 hours, but here's a voucher so that you can buy a flight that you don't need. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's always fun. So, yeah, Yankees got this thing done. They win another extra inning game. It's starting to feel like a different team in that regard. Let's just start off with that. I'll say this. I thought, there were some issues I had, with this game as far as, management.
Okay.
But I thought, Osmus was pretty good. I just had an issue at the end of the game. I want to, be full disclosure here. I'm saying exactly what I told you over text. I thought when Toronto had that defensive adjustment to bring in 5 infielders, the first thing I'm thinking is, why are you even chancing a ground ball with DJ LeMahieu? Because they had already made that adjustment. That dude came in from the outfield and already got in first base glove. Who's going to stop me if I go out and be like, all right, Oswaldo, pick up the bat. You're now pinch hitting. Nothing could have stopped the Yankees from doing that. So my thing is, Oswaldo Cabrera was more likely to hit in the outfield, more likely to pop up or whatever that could have brought the run home to win the game, right? And they had one out to do it. But DJ LeMahieu, he has like 56% ground ball percentage. I was a little concerned by that. I felt like it was a mistake. I'm glad I was wrong. Maybe I wasn't wrong. I think the premise is fair, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah, the mentality of what you're saying is good, right? The process is that, okay, before you ever take this at bat, what are you most likely to do? And I think everybody could admit the 2 players on our team we least likely to have hitting when you cannot put the ball on the ground. It's probably DJ LeMahieu and maybe Alex Verdugo. Those are probably the 2 guys you'd list, and happen to be one of those guys. Now, thankfully, DJ LeMahieu did take that at bat because it won us the game. But Jake, I really want to bring up again. We've been harping on the little things, and in general, some things today in this game were just massive, and it was a positive. In terms of little things, were great. Other things were really bad. One of the bad things we saw a read on an Austin Wells single. I believe, when was this? I think it was in the 2nd inning. It was a poor read from Gleyber Torres that made it bases loaded, to which we had Giancarlo Stanton pop up to first base, and then Jazz Chisholm lines out, right? And a lot of people would say, well, Chisholm ends up lining out with the bases loaded. That's just bad luck. Totally get it in that instance. But if you had a better read from a role player, we would already be winning. And as time went on, you started to see the pressure build on our offense to actually score. We saw Giancarlo Stanton come up today. I think he stranded like maybe 40 guys on base today. It felt like
It was
it
the
was
George
just
Washington game.
it really was. We've talked about this too, is we've loved what he's done.
Yeah.
But man, sometimes you'll watch Giancarlo and just think there's just nothing going on between the ears, which really that's not what it was today. In my estimation, what this probably is that he's just behind on the 8 ball. He's been spending time on the IL. He's not necessarily tuned up, but I don't want to make
baseball, to be honest with you, because I think
baseball.
He's been good so far.
He has been good. So that's why I was going to say I can't necessarily just chalk it up to that. Just from a simple standpoint of if he plays well, we say, oh, he's just fine to play well, but then he doesn't, and we say it's because he's off the IL. So totally understand why you bring that up. But my point here is that we kind of played ourselves into forcing a player to come through with runners in scoring position. And if you look at the stats today, normally when we don't come through with runners in scoring position, we lose. Today, here's the positive side, Jake. We did the little stuff. There was a situation where we had Jazz Chisholm and Anthony Volpe on first and second base with nobody out. The rule is never to make the first or third out at third base. They were sure of it. They stole third and second base.
Smart.
Very next situation, you're talking about a 3-1 game. Toronto feels like we need to protect this lead. It's not the heart of the lineup. They hit a ground ball, right? We hit a ground ball from Trent Grisham. Chopper over to first base. They're playing back. It's now 3-2. Now you've got a shallow fly ball from DJ LeMahieu. Again, bottom of our order. And a fast Anthony Volpe. Only reason he's over there is because of the double steal. It's now 3-3. We don't win this game without plays like that. And again, this is why we continue to harp on this stuff, because it's fun talking about the little things when you win. Everyone's all pumped up. Everyone did their job today. But people don't really want to talk about the little stuff when you lose. When you lose, people want to talk about Judge and Soto. But you need to really do a deep dive and diagnosis of what your team's like. Do they make the right winning plays when it matters? And sometimes those winning plays happen in the second inning. I thought the second inning won us the game today, regardless of what happened in extras.
I agree with you. I mean, I think, when you look at the double steal, just like you said, the small ball aspect of it, I definitely think it matters. And, I think a big thing here today was the way Juan Soto, approached the plate. I mean, I thought the home run was great. We talked about it, off air. The launch angle, if it was a little bit more up, Juan Soto won the game before the 10th inning, well before the 10th inning. So, I think I was really impressed overall. Anytime you have a lineup that has struggled really consistently throughout the year and, they come through with 10 hits, almost everybody gets a hit. Torres had 2 hits, really nice day leading off, I thought. Juan Soto had 2 hits. Judge everyone got in on it except for Stanton, which again, I don't want to put too much emphasis on that, but I was really impressed with this team, the way they battled back, because first off, the thing is, and a lot of people might not realize that the original rules would have made it so the Yankees would have won had this been rained out, because that it was the last full inning. Well, they changed the rules. So there would not have been a winner, and it would have just been a suspended game. So the Yankees went back out there, and they went back out there with Leiter Jr. And I was really impressed with the way he played. I was really against taking De Los Santos out, really against it.
Okay, yeah, that seemed a little crazy. Did this feel a little bit like Leiter was the closer?
It did. Now, the last 2 games, Clay Holmes has been decent, pretty good, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So it probably isn't the case, but I think it's fair to have that conversation, Gary. I'm glad you brought it up. He had 3 strikeouts today in, an inning and a third. And, I think really the only thing I would say about Leiter, and it's exactly what I told you, it's that control. Okay. He is a little wild, not super wild. Okay. But, when he's needing to go with that really killer fork ball splitter, hybrid, we saw it. I mean, it ended up working out for the Yankees, actually, because he hit a batter. They reviewed it. Turned out he hit him. But, what if he didn't hit him? Now that's essentially, the guy's at third. But I think Leiter Jr., his splitter might be the most disgusting pitch that the Yankees have to even put out there in the bullpen. So that's something to keep in mind.
Isn't that why
And
they got him? The
it
swing and
is
miss
why they
breaking
got
ball.
him. The
Yes
swing
Network
and
talks
miss.
about it all the time. We needed a swing and miss breaking ball. And when you talk about his control, I totally get it. When you say, because you've mentioned this, you actually text this to me and you were mentioning his control or lack thereof, but you're recognizing he's got the stuff to be the closer. But if you can't locate in the zone when you need to, I have a hard time trusting you as closer. Totally valid. This is part of the reason why Mark Leiter Jr. came at the price that he came for. He's not a player that you can just rely on at the back end of a game, but maybe you can develop him into that situation. Maybe you can put him in the situation and he'll actually answer the bell. Who knows? But I will say this about control. I've never watched Clay Holmes say bases loaded, 1 out, and thought to myself, he's going to miss a bat here. Or he has enough control where I don't have to worry that he's going to walk this guy in. I feel that Clay Holmes is a power stuff guy, but he doesn't necessarily miss bats, and I wouldn't consider him a control pitcher. So having said that, I think Leiter is great at one of those things, and Holmes is great at neither. So yeah, is Holmes excellent when he's right? Sure. But he was right for like 2 saves this month, and then we have to go back in our memory bank like 15 saves ago before the last time we saw a version of Clay Holmes that we actually had trust in. So when it comes to Mark Leiter Jr. and how this projects into the future, I think the Yankees need to be at least open-minded to the conversation that maybe we can massage another player into this situation. Maybe we can work him into, okay, we're down the stretch. We're talking about late August games. Jasson Dominguez is now being called up. These are must-win games now in the season. Perhaps you throw Leiter Jr. out there in the 9th inning and close a game, right? Perhaps you throw him in the fire. We did it today, and he answered the bell. Perhaps you give him more situations where he can build on that. And by the time you get to October, maybe you don't have to consider Leiter Jr. your closer or just the guy you just call for in the 9th inning. But when a player is in that circle of trust, we've heard that a lot at Yes Network, circle of trust from Aaron Boone. Can Leiter Jr. get into that circle of trust? I think he can. I think there's an opportunity there. I don't think the Yankees would have traded for him if he had no chance to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they gave up assets for him. So, end of the day, I think he definitely has opportunities here. I mean, he pitched 22 pitches. It's the most that anybody in the bullpen pitched today except for Weaver, who notoriously goes 2-3 innings, So, like, that's Luke Weaver in a nutshell, who I thought pitched really well today. Gerrit Cole, let's talk about Gerrit Cole a little bit because, I think early on he couldn't locate anything. I mean, it was bad early on, but I think he settled down. And a lot of people, forget, Gerrit Cole did not get the rev up period. Gerrit Cole had to have his start pushed back. So I actually expected it to be a slower start at the beginning. And then I thought, he really kind of came into his own later on in his start. Now, I also want to say this before I send it to you. I am a little concerned because, I think a lot of, as well as he did, a lot of these Yankee pitchers that were giving him 6 innings, 7 innings, 8 innings are now barely getting, 5 1/3, 5 2/3. It's putting more pressure on the bullpen. And this is something I want to bring up because, we've already talked about how the bullpen is already feeling it. But this is also early August. By the end of September, this bullpen could be absolutely cooked if this is not going to change. I mean, you can't just have Luis Heel be the only one that can get through 7 innings. And that's right now what the Yankees rotation looks like. I mean, I said it before with Rodon. He's a workhorse, but he takes a lot of pitches to get through guys because he may strike out a lot of guys, but it's like almost like the soft contact I would take a little bit more for a starter because you can get through more efficiently, eat up more innings. I think that's the most important thing right now for the Yankees, and they don't really have anybody that can do that right now.
Well, Stroman's gone 6 innings and a third his last 2 starts, to your point, right? Yeah. So that's 2 guys right there in a rotation, frankly, that aren't giving us length. You want to talk all day long about production. We want to see guys, be struck out. Like we want to see guys get outs in our starting
Yeah.
rotation. That's a given. But what if you can only get me into the fourth inning? What do I expect to see out of Clay Holmes, right? Because now you're talking about overusing these players,
Exactly.
players that we frankly still don't trust in itself, right? In their own right.
And
And
you
now
don't
I'm
have
going
a
to
Michael
overuse
King
those.
who can pitch
Right.
5 innings out of the bullpen.
Right. So it kind of goes to show you, if this is going to be the case, guys like Cody Poteet, right, and Schmidt, there's a huge emphasis on their arrival. But I'm going to say this because I want to answer your question about Gerrit Cole. And I know you said you were worried. Here's why I'm not worried.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm not worried is because the pitches that matter in the game of baseball, he's excelling at right now. And that pitch is his fastball. His fastball command is there. And when we talked earlier this season about Luis Gil, and we said, what's the issue with Luis Gil? Is it his control with his changeup, which obviously is his best pitch? And everyone talks about that devastating changeup that he has. And I told people, when Luis Gil is right, he throws strike one. He's locating pitches inside the strike zone that aren't in the fat part of the plate. And long behold, when Luis Gil got back to that fastball command, that changeup that people were now taking, they're swinging at all of a sudden because he's ahead of counts. Gerrit Cole's not having that problem. Based on what I saw today, Gerrit Cole has an issue with depth on his slider and his cutter. And frankly, he's throwing that pitch way too much trying to get a feel, and it's costing him runs in a time of the year where you just frankly cannot afford to do it. Now, luckily, the Yankees offense is executing beautifully this past week and a half, and frankly, kind of bailing him out in a game. But let me say this, Gerrit Cole got through this game by way of his fastball. That fastball, he went away from the cutter. When the broadcast is talking about that cutter not having the depth that we're used to seeing in his Cy Young year, that's okay, but don't use it if it's not working. So what did he do? He went fastball. He goes fastball over and over again. You get 0-2. Usually we see that slider, but in the back of your mind, I don't have the slider I'm used to. Maybe I can work it in later. But now I'm going to go 0-2 fastball located on the corner. He started doing that again and again. Being Gerrit Cole, he has the talent to do that. So by changing your game plan in the middle of this game, he essentially saved this start and saved this game. So I thought it was just overall a team effort and just smart work from our staff.
No, I agree with that. I didn't want you to think that I was worried about Cole per se, more so as a whole. Like this is a pattern here, like 5 1/3, 5 2/3.
It is a pattern. There's no doubt about that. You can't argue that Gerrit Cole right now, if we gave him the ball, let's just say in 5 days, to your point, we don't expect to get 7 1/3. We just have the understanding he's going to we know he's going to labor somewhere between inning 1 through 5. We just don't know when. Exactly. And he's going to squeeze out. We've got to go out there in inning number 6. We need to go through innings 6, 7, 8, and 9 with our bullpen. How many players in our bullpen do you trust? And that's 4 different players that have to touch the mound outside of Gerrit Cole, and all of them need to be successful if the Yankees want to win. That's a lot to ask, especially with any consistency. So to your point, yeah, I understand why you're worried as of now because he's not giving us that length. I'm going to try and hold on to this with some level of hope that as time goes on, I would say these next 3 starts are going to be huge. Late August, we need to know where that breaking ball's at. Because if Gerrit Cole's breaking ball is not there, I mean, how are we feeling going into game 1 of a postseason? You're not going to miss bats with one well-located pitch.
Yeah, I mean, even, Will Warren had the 5 1/3, so I feel like everyone was really pitching that 5 1/3, 5 2/3, whatever, except for Stroman, who hasn't even been able to get through the 3rd inning, so it's tough right now in that regard, but you have to find other ways to win, which we discussed they did. And it was a small ball type of day. I know Soto had the home run, but we talked about this. I mean, we talked off air. I said, this is a loss. The reason I said that is because in the 8th inning, when I watched them have the bases loaded, unfortunately, I love Austin Wells. He was in kind of a no-win situation there. That pitch had been called a strike today. It's 3-2. You have to swing at it, and you're just hoping that you swing a little late so you can foul it off. He unfortunately did not. Gets underneath it, leaves the bases loaded, just like Giancarlo Stanton left the bases loaded in the 5th inning. So yeah, I mean, it was one of those days where it was like you left those guys on base, but they were able to get through. LeMahieu had the base knock to win the game, walk-off hit. LeMahieu had the sacrifice fly in the 6th inning, which happened because of the double steal. Grisham, the ground out and everything. So, the reality of it is this. The Yankees are showing us that they can win in different ways. And that's a great thing, especially in August. I don't care who they played. This is an MLB baseball team that is capable of winning any game. Any game. I mean that. I'm not saying the Blue Jays are good because they're not good, right? But any MLB team can win any MLB game. What if I told you, folks, that the 2 teams that have the most runs produced in a game this year, okay, are the A's and the Rockies? That is baseball. That is baseball. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, obviously, come on. The White Sox, come on. They're not going to be that. But I mean, for real though, it's just a reminder that this league, it's not the difference between the best team and the worst team in the league this year is just as big as it's ever been, because
can I prove your point and just bring this whole entire point home?
Yeah.
There is no all-time great team in the league today. Doesn't exist.
There's
now,
an all-time bad team.
A lot of people would think to themselves, well, Baltimore is a great team. And to which I would say, how does a great team lose 20 games in a month? Right? How does that happen? Which team that's an all-time great team that you've watched that you would consider a bad baseball team over the stretch of a 30-game portion of your season? When does that happen? Okay. Now, here's the illustration I wanted to bring up. If you look at the standings right now, and I actually tweeted this maybe yesterday and said, this is going to be the first time that a team is going to win the World Series in my recent memory, really, where they were awful for an extended period of time in the season. Every team that has a chance to win this year had that happen. Let's look at the standings. The Baltimore Orioles, we're tied for first place with them, right? Baltimore was atrocious. Okay. Last month, terrible. Couldn't win a game.
There's 11
couldn't win a game.
Win teams, by the way. 11.
Yes. They have won 6 games in their last 10. Okay. They have a losing record their last 60 days as a ball club. That's a long time. That's 2 months of baseball. The New York Yankees, okay, team we cover, the last series we just played, we won the series. It was the first series we'd won in 9 series in a row. Okay? Now we go to the Cleveland Guardians, who I would say has been the most consistent team in baseball this year. Shockingly, right?
Yeah.
They don't have Bieber at the top of their rotation. So when you match up with them, they're not going to be the same team you expected to see. Still a good team. Back end closer, they've got it all, but not an all-time great team. This is the Cleveland Guardians, let's be clear. Now, the Seattle Mariners, everyone knows is not a great team. So that's the AL for you right there. The Houston Astros, probably people would consider one of the most deadly teams this year. They're 57-54. They had to surge to get to this point, Jake.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were bad for an extended period of time. We had a conversation. Is Houston done? Are they going to trade their players? So that whether that's right or wrong, it goes to show you we were at least considering it based on how they were playing. Now let's go to the NL. The Philadelphia Phillies, who a lot of people 10 days ago would have told you is the best team in baseball, they've won 2 games, their last 10 games. They haven't won more than 30% of their games the last month. They're awful right now. Awful baseball team, okay? The Atlanta Braves, people are describing them as starting to hit their stride. They've won 6 games their last 10, right? So realistically, you're talking Brewers, same thing. Dodgers, same thing. Teams are buyers in the NL West because of what the Dodgers are failing to do. So my whole point here, Jake, we don't have to be all-time great to win the World Series this year.
No.
We need to be better than who's in front of us. And no one's going to care who we beat. Nobody.
No.
Not one team you name in the National League, people are going to say, oh, it was just a cakewalk World Series. No one thinks about the runners-up. No one thinks about the Arizona Diamondbacks last year and thinking about, oh, they were close to winning a World Series. No, nobody, they don't come to mind, okay? It's more of a troll conversation on YouTube where people are just laughing that the Diamondbacks went out and made easy work of the Dodgers. That's just like all fun and games. But as far as the landscape of baseball, we just have to be better than who's in front of us, and it doesn't have to be great. That's what the Yankees are doing right now. The Yankees need to be better than Baltimore, who objectively, they're not great. So, Jake, Gerrit Cole, you brought up Gerrit Cole. Gerrit Cole's just got to be he needs to resemble the version of Gerrit Cole that we've come accustomed to. If that can happen, we actually can have some expectation to win game one of any series. And if we can do that, and you're facing teams that no one would really consider to be great teams, game one is more impactful than any other game in the series. So, Jake, I understand like people feel like the Yankees are again approaching October with this optimism as if we didn't need to be aggressive at the deadline. We didn't need to be aggressive in the offseason. But Jake, I just don't know if we had to this year. I think the Yankees can potentially do something based on what is, as Aaron Boone would say, is in front of us. We need to expect more from the little guys. Yes, we need to expect more from the little guys. There's no doubt about that. We don't win a World Series if Gleyber Torres looks like the Gleyber Torres, the past 4 months. That doesn't exist. We need them to be who they were the last 2 years. Okay? We're talking about 2023 and 2022, recent history. DJ LeMahieu, if he's going to be on the field, he needs to give us some level of production. He did that today, right? Juan Soto, when you see situations like you have John Schneider, people were complaining at Yankee Stadium that they were intentionally walking Aaron Judge, right? Not letting him hit.
Well, what do you think? Why you're complaining about that? What do you
Austin Wells? Austin Wells is hitting. If you lost to the New York Yankees, as good as Austin Wells as we think he is, if Austin Wells beats you at Yankee Stadium, you can live with that. You're going to show up to Yankee Stadium where Aaron Judge, he hit 62 homers a couple years ago, and then he's going to show up this year and probably hits another 55 to 60 homers, and you're going to let that player beat you in a series? John Schneider says, and you can complain all you want about his inconsistency utilizing it this series, but why would he allow that to happen? So the whole point here is there are no great teams. All these baseball teams are flawed. Our flaw is lack of offensive depth. We are going to force your role players to beat us, and we're not going to let the LeBron James of your organization attack our pitchers. So they're forcing Austin Wells. They're forcing Giancarlo Stanton. And Giancarlo Stanton, by not being excellent today, it almost cost us the game. That's the whole purpose. So, Jake, this is a situation of execution. If we can execute better than these other teams down the stretch, we'll win this division. If we can execute and do the little things right, play some small ball every once in a while, not all the time, every once in a while, we have a real chance to win. We do.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I hear you. It's kind of funny, low key, that Austin Wells has a 342 on base percentage now. Put him in like almost the top 10 among all leadoff hitters. So, I mean, I think that conversation can be had. I'm not going to lie. I know Gleyber was good today, but we know Gleyber was only in the leadoff spot, and they'll probably go back to Verdugo because Verdugo was on the lineup today. But to wrap this thing up, Aaron Judge played left field. It looks weird. And yes, there was an error made in that direction by Grisham.
That was bad.
But I mean, you told me, you're like, we need to talk about Aaron Judge in left field, because it really kind of feels like this is kind of the direction it'll go in if you replace Grisham with Dominguez. This is probably, I mean, more or less, obviously, I hope Rice is in over LeMahieu. I don't think it's a guarantee. What we saw today could very well be the starting 9 that they use in the postseason, right? Again, hoping Rice is the first baseman, not LeMahieu. I don't mind LeMahieu being on the roster if he can come through like the way he did today, but I think Rice is the better player. Now, with that said, was Verdugo benched today? Do you think he was benched? Do you think it was just a rest day, or do you think he was benched? Because it kind of came out of nowhere. He doesn't really miss games. I don't think he's missed a game since he went on paternity leave. Remember? He had that quick paternity leave he went on.
I do remember that. I don't know if it was a benching. I just think that
I mean, it should have
I
been.
just don't know. I understand like post break, people have said that he swung a hot bat, but he did have a stretch this past like 3 games where he was just, I mean, he was 0 for 5, 1 for 6, right? So
I actually think it was a benching because I think he was that play where the ball goes by the first baseman. It was Vladdy Guerrero, and he's just jogging, and he gets there. I don't think he knew he was safe.
Has there been a play this year where you thought to yourself, that was some nice heads up baseball from Alex Verdugo?
I mean,
is there a play that comes to mind? Because I would say I can name you a play, at least a play, from every single player on this roster, and that's including the stars, right? Where I said, oh, Juan Soto, he backed up Trent Grisham in yesterday's game, saving a run for the New York Yankees, right? Saving an opportunity with runners in scoring position. Aaron Judge, right? Oh, I saw him go first to third on a booted ball in right center field, and then a sac fly scored him. I can name you plays from pretty much everybody on this roster offensively.
I'm sure
Alex Verdugo doesn't do the little stuff, and he's not good enough, frankly.
No,
he's not good enough to fail in that department. So, like, that's where I'm at with this player. I don't think he's nearly on the level to block Jasson Dominguez. I think when Jasson Dominguez is ready to play, you just tell Alex Verdugo, hey, come sit next to coach. Here's some sunflower seeds or a can of dip, whatever floats your boat. And we're going to throw Jasson Dominguez in center field. And when Jasson Dominguez is the starting center fielder for the Yankees, a lot of people wonder why isn't Aaron Judge in his home position in right field? The Yankees determined right field to be the easiest position defensively to cover. It's 100% accurate. I mean, no one can really make that argument otherwise. So Juan Soto is anchored in right field unless they go to Fenway Park, where the inverse is the case. So Aaron Judge, who's an excellent outfielder, we've talked about the move to first base. How about the move to left field? If he can move to left field and master it out there, which I have no doubt he can do, well, you're talking about an outfield of Jasson Dominguez, Aaron Judge, and Juan Soto. And now, if Alex Verdugo wants to have a hot hitting week, you can take Giancarlo Stanton off the field and put Verdugo on the field again as a bat, because that's just really all it is. We need more depth offensively. We've actually done a better job than what people have given us credit for, but I'm liking the idea and the prospect of putting Judge in left.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to, right? I really do. I mean, Verdugo's not doing enough to really say, yeah, I need him to be in left field. I mean, we talk about a lot. He really just has, like, when he gets on, he's hitting line drives, right? More often than not, he hits a lot of ground balls. And I think that's kind of the issue right now, is that the Yankees need to kind of get away from that. And so, you know, it's not to say that grounders you can't beat out, grounders can't go into the outfield. It happens, but you need more like line drive hitters, I would say. And
they don't happen for him. He's not beating out a ground ball. He doesn't even run. So
no, I'm saying
how can you be? Yeah, in general, you're totally right. Like ground balls, at least the idea, because remember, everyone was like, why do the Yankees strike out so much? We want guys to put the ball in play.
Guy that was running down the line today, I mean, this is why you run. This is why you run. The Yankees had to literally challenge because it was like that. It was like that. That's how close.
Hit it to a Gold Glover, and he was almost safe.
And by the way, Jazz Chisholm, that play where he like flipped the ball up and then he threw it, he's got an absolute rocket for an arm.
Yeah. Girardi talked about that today. It's just how deep he can play at third base, because in general, if you want to talk about his range and athleticism, well, it's only going to compound when you get to play that deep towards the grass. I mean, if he can make that throw, well, the transition over there at third base, at least in the short term, it's much easier now. So that's good to see. I wasn't a huge fan of putting him at third base because I thought, well, his best position, second base. Glaber hasn't really done a rip. Yeah,
he's never played there before. Yeah, I wasn't
never played there.
A huge fan of putting him somewhere he's never played before. I don't think anybody's going to yell at you for that take. I mean, you and I both were like, that's stupid. Why would you trade for a guy where you don't even know where you're going to play him? But then again, I thought about it. I was like, you know what? He has the athletic profile to do it. We already knew that. But furthermore, we're kind of going against the grain here in a sense, our own grain, essentially, because you and I had literally said we don't care about defense, just go and get bats. And that's literally what they did. They heard the Yankees unloaded and they're like, yeah, we'll just throw them in third base. Who knows? Who cares?
Yeah, they called us out on our BS. They're like, don't tell us about who's playing where. You told us you don't care. And now if you don't care, we're going to throw him over. Our player's going to tell us, I don't want to move from second base, right? Gleyber Torres he finds himself to be a good enough second baseman where that's his home position.
If he was asked that same question right now, I tell you, he'd say, I'd play third base. I really do. I think that knocked him down a peg.
Oh, you think Gleyber Torres like humbled himself from now till then? Like
I do.
Then till now? Yeah, I
don't know.
I would like to believe it.
But right now, I mean, he's obviously running out of the box. We've seen him.
Yes, today he did that.
Ran out of the box. He ran out of the box yesterday. Obviously, he needs to keep doing it. But yeah, I mean, and I'll say this as we wrap this thing up. Look, I think 1000% Verdugo was benched today because I think everybody saw that. And I think, it was one of those things where Boone could do it without actually saying he was benched. But I think when he was making the lineup, he was thinking about yesterday, and I think that's what it came down to. And you could say, oh, well, the matchup, I don't care about the matchup. If I saw my player jogging to the point where he didn't even know he was safe because of an erred throw, I mean, I'd take him out right then and there. So I think Boone definitely got heat for the Torres thing, which he shouldn't have. But at the same time, I do agree with him getting heat in a sense. You got to also hold that same, Aaron Judge does that. I'm not taking Aaron Judge out. I'm going to lose the game. But, because he can get away with that every now and then. Verdugo absolutely cannot. Verdugo cannot. I mean, he has a game this year where the Yankees lost because he fell flat on his face in the outfield. That's all you need to know. So, look, I'll be honest with you. I think he was benched today. I also want to just throw this out there real quick. Umpire was god awful, like actually a joke.
It felt like the whole game was about him. I thought so. We're on the Lord's Day, and I was like, "Oh, this day is not about him at all. Like this is about the umpire."
The God complex, right? We haven't. So new viewers, we haven't talked about God complex umpires since we had like 500 subscribers. Now we have 2,200. But for the new viewers out there, just want to let you guys know. Just because we don't talk about the umps anymore or as much doesn't mean we don't think about them and doesn't mean we're not okay. Like we are absolutely not okay with today. Today was awful on both sides. That strike call that he kept calling that was way below the zone is not a strike. There is not a planet where that's a strike. Okay.
He was calling balls up too. There's a pitch that Leiter threw, and obviously it helped us. So I'm sure not many Yankees fans are going to talk about this. But let's be objective here. There was a 2-0 pitch that Leiter threw that was not even close to the strike zone. I mean, I shouldn't have to think about you. Yeah, if Leiter throws a ball, I should have to worry about Leiter. But when Leiter throws a ball and you call it a strike, now the conversation's on you, and we feel like we have to justify our win. And, in some way, obviously the game ended in a way that was more resounding, but I'll tell you, no team wants to feel like we're going to make excuses as to why they won. Nobody wants to hear that. No. And the actual umpires of 2024 do one of the worst jobs ever of making the game about the players. It seems like at this point, like by 2025, I'm expecting Manfred to put mics on these guys. Like they expect us to want to hear him all the time. They actually did it with the challenge system. They're like, the home plate umpire after the challenge, they're going to start talking. I was like, I don't want to hear them talk. Yeah. I actually don't even want to know what their voice sounds like.
Yeah. No, I don't care. That dude literally, I mean, you knew he had he had a soft spine when Boone said that was down. And he's like, get the hell out of here. How dare you say that to me? And then did you see James Rowson was just like, you haven't gotten a call right all day. And then he started like cussing at him and he threw out James Rowson. And I love that James Rowson got tossed. I love that he had that fire. We haven't had a chance to really see that. I think they kind of fed off that a little bit because it means a lot. Obviously, the players are going out there, putting their bodies on the line, going to war, so to speak. I want to know that my coaches care. And obviously, we know Boone does. But to see Rowson do that was cool. The Austin Wells call was terrible. Absolutely awful. It was way low. And he called that all game. So at least he was consistent. But
consistently buns.
And then the call that we were talking about you just talked about with Leiter. I mean, it's up. That's why Wells is swinging at that. When people are like, why is he swinging at that 3-2? Because he has to, because that's now a strike, apparently.
Wells, technically, if you get serious here with the point you just brought up, if the catcher for the Yankees, who's been witnessing, he's catching the game and he's seeing calls be made just poorly, right?
Yeah.
Above the strike zone, why would you expect Austin Wells to show up at the plate later in the game and expect to not receive the same strike zone? That's by definition what the umpire says he's trying to do. Yeah. So when you see a pitch at the top of the strike zone, you actually saw it quite a bit today of Austin Wells expanding at the top of the zone. Well, that makes a lot of sense based on what happened for Yankees pitchers today. So with that said, Jake, since we won this game, I'm going with one of my favorite movies, by the way, Top Gun Maverick. I'm going Top Gun Maverick.
You knew that, bro. You knew
Are you being serious?
I only saw the first Top Gun. I didn't really like Top Gun.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Hey, it's Tom Cruise, so whatever. I'll probably check it out because I like Tom Cruise, but
I was putting people on with the massive talent. There were a few of our viewers who actually went and saw the movie, and they told me how great this movie was. I mean, I already knew this, but I'm happy we could put them on. I guarantee you 99% of our audience, especially like the way our show is, we go into detail. I don't think our audience is as young as one would think. So I'm going to assume everyone's seen Top Gun.
That's okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen Top Gun. I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick. Also, want to give a shout out, guy I played golf with today, Dave. If you're watching, appreciate you. New viewer potentially. We'll see. I mean, he jotted it down.
Perfect. Shout out to Dave.
Fan, so hopefully, he checked it out, and just wanted to say that. But guys, really appreciate you as always. We just continue to grow. I mean, it's over 100 subscriptions a day, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to hit that bell icon. You'll never miss another video. I had somebody ask me, hey, Jake, why didn't I get, a notification? I never heard that, you dropped the show. Well, also, not just hitting the bell icon, make sure if you're using your iPhone or Android, make sure you have notifications set. I can't stress that enough, because you could have everything set up for YouTube, but if your phone doesn't have that set up, you're not going to get anything. So that's what probably will happen. I don't know. But that's
Android, man. Well, who's owning an Android?
I don't know. You probably offended some people, but
I'm sure I did. It's actually, I think across the world, it's the most popular phone in the world. It's actually more sold than the iPhone. I don't get it. But
hey, don't look at
to each of their own.
I got the iPhone, so yeah. See, calculator ready to
You haven't seen Top Gun, but I'll let it slide because you have an iPhone.
Yep. I found that funny. Like I was like, yeah, I got the iPhone calculator apps up. No idea why the calculator's app is up. I think we did math before the show. I don't know, but anyway, we appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys soon, and you guys enjoy the off day tomorrow.
And like this video.